Thanks for Your Support by Lily Pinwielder. Read by Niche-lle. Summary. Prompt. Izuku is one of the best support students I've had this year. Heck, my entire teaching career. His quirk analysis is top-notch, and yet I can't help but feel his talents are wasted here. I know he's quirkless, but he's got the talent and the intellect to make it as a hero, and yet he doesn't seem to be interested. True, he'll need tons of training and more than a little support gear, but if anyone could be a quirkless hero, he could. The hero course doesn't know what it's missing out on. Hey, Toshinori, how come you look so pale all of a sudden? Or, Izuku has the talent and intellect to be the first quirkless hero, and everyone at UA knows it. Unfortunately, his desire to become a hero has long since been buried thanks to the words of his childhood friend and childhood hero. When the support class is announced, Izuku Midoriya walks out onto the field with the rest of his classmates. Beside him, Hatsume is all geared up and rearing to go. Izuku is wearing just his gym uniform. He wasn't going to participate, wasn't going to try and catch the attention of the pros when he knows that he can never be a hero, but he remembers watching the festival with his mom year after year. Remembers watching starry-eyed as all the UA students showcase their flashy quirks. Remembers filling out notebook after notebook after notebook with observations and analysis and amateur fan drawings. And the thing is, he might not be in the hero course, but he is the first quirkless student to make it into UA. And if he can prove himself in the sports festival, if he can make himself stand out enough, then maybe one day there will be a quirkless kid that is called useless and worthless, and they'll be able to point to this day and say, a quirkless kid almost won the sports festival once. Izuku knows he'll never be a hero, but that's not going to stop him from giving it his all. Plus ultra. My money's on that Bakugo kid. Did you see him challenge the entire school with that one-line speech? Cool as a cucumber. No doubt about it, he's taken the top spot. No way. Keep your eyes on Endeavor's son. That's the one to beat. Toshinori laughs. Indeed, they are clearly the two powerhouses of 1A. Hey, you never know. I've got pretty handy kids over in 1B. Vlad King interjects before mumbling under his breath. If Monoma can calm down enough to stick to the plan, anyway. Midoriya. There's a stunned silence, and then they all turn to Powerloader questioningly. The main teacher of the support department has his eyes focused on the obstacle course, but they all can hear the smile in his voice. Izuku Midoriya is one of the best support students I've had this year, second only to Mei Hatsume. Heck, in my entire teaching career I've never come across such talented geniuses. Hatsume's talents are focused solely on her inventions, but Midoriya on the other hand blows me away. His quirk analyses are the top-notch, and the scenarios he comes up with that lead to him inventing the gadgets just to deal with those imaginary situations never cease to amaze me. Snipe leans forward. Which one? That one there with the boots flying across the canyon? Powerloader laughs. No, that's Hatsume. Midoriya wanted to do the first round without any of his tech. What? Why? Well, I guess he wanted to prove that he could. Wanted to show everyone watching that even a quirkless kid could do it. And I believe it. He trails off before bursting out with, God, I can't help but feel like his talents are wasted here, you know? I know he's quirkless, but he still has the talent and the intellect to make it as a hero. And yet, he doesn't seem to be interested. Every time I bring it up, he turns me down immediately. Sure, he needs tons of training and more than a little support gear. I'm not gonna lie. But if anyone could make it as a quirkless hero, it would be him. The hero course doesn't know what is missing. Oh, there he is! The giant screens that have been showing Todoroki and Bakugo fighting in the minefield abruptly switches to the green-haired boy flying through the air on a piece of robot. He gets one foot onto each of the 1A boys before slamming the metal onto the ground between them, launching himself forward into first place. Powerloader cheers. Ha! In your faces! Pay up, everyone! Hey, are you okay, Yagi? You look really pale all of a sudden. Toshinori Yagi swallows the blood in his throat and doesn't say a word. The cavalry battle is announced on the teacher's watch as pandemonium breaks out. Sucks to be him. Snipe says as below them, Midoriya and Hatsume ignore the chaos and walk over to the side where they've stashed their support cases. Quirkless and the 10 million point target on his back, there's no way he'll be able to fill a team with. A familiar blonde boy tackles Midoriya into a headlock and delivers what looks like a ruthless noogie onto his floofy head. At his side, eyeing the sky as if to say, why me, is the class representative of 1B. Huh, I take it back then. I guess even Monoma can see the logic in teaming up with whoever has the most points. That's not it. Powerloader and Vlad King both comment in unison, and then eye each other as if to ask who should speak first. Vlad wins. Midoriya and Monoma are already friends. They met on the first day of school when some Gen Ed kids were heckling Monoma about getting in with a, and I quote, quirkless quirk. Midoriya happened to be passing by and tore them a new one. Wait, he attacked them? in a manner of speaking, verbally took them down several notches by insulting their ability to become heroes with that kind of attitude, and implied that their own quirks must be nothing special if a quirkless quirk could get a better mark on the exam. Powerloader snorts. He went a little further, if you recall. Nearly worked himself into a panic afterwards that he'd be expelled for the threats he issued. I had to send him to Recovery Girl to calm down. Toshinori was only half listening, instead watching the two support students confidently pass around tech, and the hero students pulled them on with no hesitation. They've practiced this. Powerloader and Blood King grin. Of course they did. The Blood Hero laughs. Monoma figured ages ago that the second round is some form of team battle, and you don't need to place too high in round 1 to be included. Why do you think all of 1B hung back in the race? They were observing 1A's quirks and fighting styles. And Midoriya worked out multiple plans to account for anything from 2-person teams to 5. Then he made gear specific to his team members and applied for a practice room to test them out. Since he made them specifically with Kendo, Monoma, and Tsuburaba in mind, I had no problem with allowing them to practice so long as I was there to supervise. And the 3 of them are allowed to apply for the items to be added to their official hero gear after. Down in the field, Monoma and Kendo are adjusting what looks like fingerless brass knuckle gloves, but Powerloader knows they're made with special material to grow and shrink with Kendo's quirk. Monoma then attaches thick silver cuffs to his wrists and twists the thin white bands in the middle to choose the setting. To his right, Midoriya is donning the same kind of cuffs, while Hatsume is pulling out 3 pairs of boots and a jetpack. The 2 teachers look out at the announcer's booth where they know Aizawa is watching. 1A won't know what hit them. What's the plan, boss man? Nato's face splits into a manic grin as he toes off his shoes and socks and bends down to roll his pants up to his knee. Midoriya taps his nail against his teeth even as he absently steps into a pair of boots Hatsume set out for him. Formation C is still our best bet. I feel bad Tsuburaba can't use what I made for him, but this is still our highest chance of success. The plan we'll use is... new plan. We're blending B and F. Nato cackles and Kendo tilts her head. You want to play keep away, but also go on the offensive? Midoriya nods and meets their eyes with a determined stare. The point gap is too large. Bakugo will definitely come after us with everything, so it doesn't make sense to rely solely on this one headband. I'd like to hang on to it so we could take first, but if there's even the slightest chance that we could lose it at the last second, then it isn't logical not to have an alternate path to victory. As long as we split our focus into racking up backup points just in case, then at least we'll make it to the one-on-ones, with or without the 10 million. Kendo nods and steps into her own pair of boots. And that perfectly complements Formation C. Yep. Nato pops the P and cracks his knuckles. You two focus on snatching points. Should the going get rough, just leave the defending to Mito and me. Aw yeah, dream team! Hatsume laughs, arming herself with a couple of Midoriya's cuffs as Nato pulls on his jetpack. Present Mike starts the countdown and they get into position. Nato ties the headband across his forehead and grips Midoriya's shoulders as Hatsume and Kendo take one-handed grip on each of his bare ankles. Midoriya shakes out his hands, which activates the cuffs on his wrists, spider-thin whips slowly extending. Nato follows suit. Game start! Hisashi Yamada has never had a harder time commentating than he is right now. Right off the bat, teams Todoroki and Bakugo made for Team Monoma, but were quickly intercepted by Teams Tsuburaba and Shiozaki respectively. More Class 1B teams converge on the spot to back them, allowing Team Monoma to... What's this? Am I seeing things? Team Monoma takes off at a stunning coordination of 3 hover boots and 1 super-powered jetpack. And where did Team Aoyama's headband go? You're being too loud. Shota groans, though his eyes are moving rapidly to take in as much of the chaos as possible. Class 1B continues to show levels of teamwork unheard of in sports festival history, as they seem to be more concerned with helping Team Monoma win than winning themselves. On first glance it seems to be illogical, but with Team Monoma focusing on stealing headbands as they go, majority of 1A teams are now down to 0, leaving more opportunities for 1B kids to turn things around for themselves in the end. Or haven't you noticed that the teamwork is going both ways? I don't believe it! The only 1A teams still in possession of headbands are teams Bakugo, Todoroki, and Shinso. Don't count the other teams out yet! There's still plenty of time to turn things around! Shota watches as Shinso finally makes his move. The 1B teams are in trouble now. Team Shinso, while not as fast at the snatch and grab as Team Monoma, has snagged themselves 2 of 1B's headbands. Of course he's slower at it. Even with Ida's speed quirk at his disposal, Team Monoma has Hatsume's eyesight on their side for picking out distracted targets, and Midoriya's invisible whip item for long-distance grabs. With Monoma's copy ability giving them 2 sharpshooters and the other 1B teams acting as living shields, it's no wonder Shinso is having a hard time. Team Monoma's strategy is obviously well thought out. What's that? Am I hearing right? I'm not, Shoto grumbles, mentally begging his friend to tone it down a notch. Was that actual praise? I think I'm in shock. Focus on the match, Mike. Right, the clock is running down, folks. Team Todoroki has managed to get the headband from the team in their way, but that's not stopping Team Tsuburaba from keeping them away from Team Monoma. As for Team Shinso... Die! I think you should be paying more attention to Team Bakugo, Shota comments dryly. Nato's cheeks are starting to hurt from smiling so wide, but he can't help it. With a flick of his wrist, all 5 whips latch around the large boy carrying Team Asui, holding them in place as Hatsume makes the more delicate grab. There is a distant boom and a shout of "Die!" and Midoriya tenses below him. Nato feels his grin stretch wider. This is it, the crux of the original Plan F, tweaked just a bit between the 2 boys as the girls were fiddling with their boots. Bakugo was coming, and it was time to make a statement. I'll fucking kill you, Deku! Midoriya flinches, and Nato gives his shoulder a quick one-handed squeeze, even as he keeps his zoom eyes focused on the rapidly approaching 1A boy. Distantly, he can hear his teachers discussing whether leaving his horse is allowed, and Midnight announces that it's fine as long as Bakugo doesn't touch the ground. Nato laughs maniacally as he reels in his whips. He's going to enjoy this. Explosions propel the 1A boy forward at increased speeds, and Midoriya mumbles something about the gravity girl on Bakugo's team using her quirk, but Nato stays focused. Specifically on Kendo's grip on his ankle. As soon as Bakugo is in reach, Nato switches quirks, and in the blink of an eye has bitch-slapped the boy with a newly enlarged palm. Present Mike goes wild, but Nato is more interested in the feel of the bare tip of one of his fingers making contact with Bakugo's cheek. Tape shoots out from Team Bakugo to reel their leader back in, and Nato laughs gleefully as he strings his palm, Bakugo's headband clutched in his fist. He'll be back, Midoriya warns, and he'll be mad. Let him come, Nato smirks. I'm ready. And he really is. Midoriya's plan has been perfect from the start, as to be expected from the green genius. With all the spare headbands now in possession of Teams Monoma, Todoroki, and Shinso, Team Bakugo remains focused on the 10 million, while Todoroki and Shinso square off. Less than 5 minutes to go. Who will come out on top? And will any of the other teams manage to regain points, or will they all finish at 0? Deku! Bakugo comes rocketing back. Clearly still weightless, but Nato is prepared. At the last second, he extends both arms and lets off a massive explosion in clear copy of one of Bakugo's earlier attacks on Todoroki. His brass knuckle gloves fall to pieces, but he's sure Midoriya won't be too mad. The blonde before him snarls as he hovers weightlessly in place, semi-occupied with patting out his flaming shirt. You really are the mad dog of Class 1A. Nato cackles, blue eyes lit up with inner mania. And you know what dogs like to play? He swiftly removes his own headband with a single tug and tosses it into the air. Fetch! It seems to hang there for a moment, and Bakugo incredulously stretches out his hand for it. He doesn't see Midoriya pull out a small silver ball and press a button. Doesn't see the ball extend tiny wings. Doesn't notice Midoriya throw it at the headband. The drone snags the 10 million points and takes it off, leaving Bakugo's grab to close on air. He growls, screaming insults, and turns to follow it, fresh explosions popping to propel him forward. Nato's hand swells as he uses Kendo's quirk to swat Bakugo from the air. The force is enough to send the weightless boy flying, and he skids on the ground briefly before bouncing back into the air. The brief contact with the ground was all Nato needed. There's a shocked silence, all cheering cut out in shock. Team Bakugo is disqualified! There's 10 seconds left, and Nato smiles widely at the cameras, and laughs, Hatsume joining in. He can't believe they actually pulled this off. Time is up! I don't believe it. The 10 million points are gone, but Team Monoma still takes first. Team Todoroki takes second, while Team Shinso takes third, and that's all there is. Every single other team is tied for dead last with 0 points. What an upset! I can't believe it! Ugh, you said that already. We get it. Midoriya really is the best. Nato twirls his first-place medal around his finger as Izuku simply shoves his own medal away. He can still hear people talking about how badass he was, his mind replaying Eraserhead's praising of him during his battle against Todoroki. Monoma learned from Todoroki's first battle that if you let him get the first hit, it would be over. Even with having 3 of his classmates walk him to the edge of the arena, by the time he stepped up and the battle started, he was less than a minute of copied quirks left. He pinned all his hope on reaching Todoroki with that one hit to copy his quirk, and it worked. Todoroki underestimated him, and that's why he lost. Nato is still riding high, and yet when he looks at Midoriya, his friend doesn't seem happy at all. They beat out almost the entire hero course, and yet Midoriya doesn't seem to care. So Nato doesn't hold back and says something he knows Midoriya wouldn't want him to. You never did say why you were so adamant about not being a hero. Izuku freezes. Power Loader Sensei asks all the time, but this is the first time someone else has asked, and for once, Izuku finds he wants to answer. He doesn't know why. Doesn't know what about Tochan feels different. Maybe it's the continued shock of actually having a friend. Maybe it's the feeling that Tochan only hasn't left yet because he doesn't know the truth. Maybe Izuku is just tired of keeping the pain to himself. Either way, when he finally speaks, it's with the truth. I decided to face reality. Growing up, it was just another fact of life that I wouldn't amount to much. The sky is blue, grass is green. Useless Deku would never be a hero. Tochan's blue eyes shine with a glint of darkness. Deku? Like that Bakugo kid was calling you? Izuku doesn't say anything, but the lack of denial is enough. His friend's face twists into a sneer. I should have hit him harder. You set his shirt on fire, and bitch slapped him with Kendo's quirk on national TV. Twice. Yeah, what's your point? Izuku sighs and says nothing, fingers fidgeting with the loose scrap of metal in his pocket. He's jolted out of his thoughts by Tochan's warm hand coming down on his shoulder as blue eyes glare down at him. You know how many people told me I couldn't be a hero growing up? The support student tries to speak, but Monoma gives him a small shake. Everyone. Literally everyone. My quirk's useful enough. They all admitted that. But you have to get too close. You're too weak to pull it off. Too dumb to strategize on the fly. On and on and on. Even at the special gym my parents sent me to, it didn't matter how hard I tried, or that I eventually succeeded. My accomplishments were always credited to whoever's quirk I borrowed to pull it off, and I remained nothing more than a cheap imitation. Izuku's eyes widen as Tochan grins at him, his usual air of hysteria palpable as he shakes him again. Don't you get it, Midoriya? The only person in my entire life to take one look at me and say I'd be an amazing hero was you. Are you going to tell me that it's not enough to have one person see you for who you are and tell you you can do it? The star of 1B finally releases him and steps back to fix Izuku with an icy stare. Listen up, Midoriya, because I'm only going to say this once. You are more deserving of a spot in the hero course than half the kids already in it, and that includes me. So if they offer you a spot, you should take it. The blonde grins widely, but it's no longer the slightly unhinged one from earlier. I mean, you're already my hero. You may as well get a license out of it. Hey y'all! I find voicing announcer Mike very embarrassing. I also live in a townhouse, and the walls are thin, so I was super scared about yelling. Also, holy crap, there's over 200 of you. I know that's not a lot, but it feels like a lot, especially since I've only been doing this for 3 weeks. Let me know what you think in the comments. Tell me your criticisms on my yelling voice. I'll see y'all in the next one.